Right. I kick off, and I'm going to start this farrago, if you like, of science ideas. Don't worry, Harry said we're going to ask you questions. We are not going to ask you questions. We're going, well, metaphorically speaking, we might have. We're going to talk about a whole series of scientific things, some of which you know all about. For instance, birds migrating. When they migrate, you have often noticed that they fly in a V formation. The question is, why do they fly in a V formation? What is the reason for it? And why every so often do you see them shift order? They move around. Very good reason. It's to save energy. It's to save energy. Each of the birds back from the leader are picking up on the energy of the one in front. Let me explain. In order to fly, a bird does that. It pushes down with its wings, so it pushes air down. But it doesn't leave a vacuum above its wings. Air sweeps in from above to it, do you understand? And it goes round, and it sets up a loop of air. But of course, the bird is moving forward. So it's not just a loop it produces, it's a spiral, do you see? Behind it, it leaves a spiral. It's doing this, but moving forwards, and it leaves a spiral behind. So one out and one back, the air is coming up. The air is coming up. So the bird behind just gets in the right position to pick up the updraft. And the one behind it does exactly the same thing. But of course, the one at the front is not helped at all. So every so often they change order, and the one at the front drops back, and one other moves in, and they do it all the time. Sue found a very interesting thing the other day, that if one of them was injured for some reason and drops out of formation and goes down, two other birds will drop down with it and go down to ground with it. If it's been shot and it's dead, they will come back and join the rest. If it isn't, they will help it up. But it's a very interesting thing. So next time you see the birds migrating, and that you'll say, saving energy. One of the things that we'll be discussing on and off this afternoon is, why do aeroplanes fly? They don't fly, obviously, by flapping. What they do is they have wings, which when they're flying, the wings are tilted up slightly. Tilted up. So as it moves through the air, the incoming air hits the wing and is deflected down. This angle the wing is set at is called the angle of attack. And mostly what happens is that the air coming in hits the wing, changes direction, goes down, and gives the plane an upward push.
Now we can demonstrate this if we have a volunteer who's prepared to spin around at some speed. Do we have a volunteer? If we don't have a volunteer, I'm going to choose someone. How about you? You look like a likely spinner. Okay, here we have a wing with an angle of attack, as you can see. What I'd like you to do is hold the bottom of the string and the top of the string and just Spin round as fast as you can. Come on, get it up. Hooray! Well done. Thank you. What's your name?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, I hope you're not too giddy. So what we've seen here is that the angle of attack causes the wing to lift, but you'll notice that there's another thing about this wing. It's a bit curved. And if you look at most of the textbooks, it will say that it's the curve of the wing that accounts for most of the lift. Not exactly true, as we shall explain. It turns out that with any curved surface, fluids, whether it be air or whether it be water, tend to cling to the surface and move across with some interesting effects, which Mike will explain now.
You know all about this. What we're going to explain to you now is called the Coanda effect, which you may never have heard of. But how often have you taken a teapot, tipped it up and poured the tea in, and the tea has run back down the spout and onto the table? How often does that happen? Yes? You've noticed that? That's the Coanda effect. It is sticking to the curved surface. There are many examples of it, but we're going to give you a rather nice demonstration of it. At least we think so. Ken, come and be a stand for me, would you? Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now here Sue has got an ordinary plastic spoon on which we've glued wait a minute, the people over there are alongside. A plastic spoon, and glued to the handle there is a toothpick. And you haven't got your glasses on so you can't see. Okay, the toothpick. This can swing backwards and forwards now, you see. Have your toothpick.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now I'm going to pour water down through this. Going to get a jet of water down here. Watch how the spoon behaves when Sue puts the spoon into the jet. Further down.
It's sticking perfectly nicely.
If you put
One
it
more
down,
time.
it will stick out at an angle if you hold it down. That's better. Now you've got it.
It sticks in the stream. Strange. Strange.
Thanks, sir. Now we've got some other examples of this that you've seen at time to time, which we've got pictures on the computer, which will
How
show
the
you.
water sticks to the curved surface and apparently causes a bit of suction.
Now this is outside our department in Canberra, in Australia. There is this water fountain, and the water comes down thing in front, and do you see that here it's bending round the bottom edge here, and it's going backwards? It was a long time before I suddenly realised what I was looking at. I was looking at the Coanda effect. And if you look at fountains, if you look at water flowing over things, you'll often see this effect. For instance, in the shops that sell things for gardens, they quite often sell a sphere. And the water bubbles out of the top of the sphere. Have you ever seen those? And then the water flows around the side. But when it gets to the actual edge, notice how it falls straight off. It does not. It clings onto the side and goes round to the bottom. So in water gardens, you'll see this effect many times. There's a big amphora, and the water flows all around that. But the people who sell them never say, now this is a very good example of the Coanda effect. We got another one there?
No, that's it. So what we've got here is this interesting effect that water clings to surfaces and it looks as if it sort of sucks. Ken.
Do you want to do the water?
Ken. It's Ken now. You're not looking at the instructions. Can't get good help these days.
Have enough of those two. So, I am going to talk about something which is a bit related to that, but I'm going to show you a demonstration you've probably all seen before, and then I'm going to just ask a couple of questions about how it might work. So, how many of you have seen this before? You take a glass and you fill it to the brim, and you put a postcard over the top, and then when you turn it upside down, you should be able to let go of the postcard and the water will stay in the glass.
Have you seen that?
Seen that?
No, some haven't seen
Some
it.
people haven't seen it. All right, let's try that out. So, I don't know if I've got enough water here. I might have to tip it out that... can I use this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So here we go. Very scientific props these. Of course, you can all try this one at home. Take a postcard. There it goes. Maybe just move this onto the floor. Hope there's no electrical cables running under the part that I'm standing. Okay, now expect a massive round of applause if this works.
Yes, fair enough.
And an even bigger one if it doesn't. Oops. Slip hazard. So the explanation for that is, well, does anybody know why that happens, first of all? Okay. Yeah?
Is it that air cannot get out to release the paper off the bottom?
Sort of. So, how this is usually described is that you've got air pressure, so there's air in the room, it exerts a pressure on things, and actually the force that it's exerting is very, very large. So I'm going to use Mike's rule of thumb here. I can't claim credit for this because he told me about it earlier on in the apartment. But if you think about your thumb, there's about a kilogram of force on your thumb due to the air pressure. So if you think about the diameter of the glass, there's a few kilograms of force acting upwards on that postcard. And if you think about the weight of the water, it's much less than that. So actually, gravity hasn't got a look in. You're always going to get the postcard to stick. Seem feasible? Happy with that? Okay, I'm going to take it one step further, and this time I'll need a volunteer to help out, a brave volunteer who might not be afraid of getting wet if things go wrong. Brilliant. Do you want to come out here? Always somebody else. I'm going to bring you a chair so that you can... Okay, what's your name? Manth. Oh, that's an unusual name. Okay. Want to have a wee seat there for me? Thank you very much. So, you're going to help us demonstrate a variation on this experiment. So, this time, I'm going to pour out most of the water. In fact, let's just leave in a trickle. Maybe a little bit more of a trickle than that. Okay. Same deal, postcard on the top. Turn upside down. What do you think will happen? Think it'll work? So now there's air pressure in there. Same cross section on the top as the bottom. Right, I'm more nervous than you are. Right, I'm going to try this. Only once. Now the water isn't even making contact with the whole card. Okay, well done. All right, so that's not air pressure, that's something else. And that is what we call the surface tension of the water. So water molecules, H2O, two hydrogens and an oxygen, when a water molecule forms, it tends to arrange itself such that there are electric charges at each end, a plus and a minus. And anyone who's rubbed a balloon and stuck it on the wall will be able to tell you that you get a force of attraction. And that's a bit like what happens with the water molecules. They all have got slight forces of attraction to the ones next to them and to nearby objects. So the water itself is creating a sticking force that keeps that postcard in place. And that's why I could, although you didn't see me do it, put that over your head and turn it round like that without you getting wet. Give him another round of applause. Thank you very much. Okay, back to you.
Aren't you going to do the net?
Yeah, you should. Should I?
Yes!
Yes, definitely.
Yes!
Okay. I'm going to take it one step further. That surface tension effect is quite interesting because if you think about looking at the top of a glass of water, you might notice that it kind of bulges a bit at the edges. It's called a meniscus. And that's because of this concept of all the molecules kind of sticking to each other. You see it at the surface. You see it at the surface. It's like a skin. I don't know if you've ever tried to put water through a tea strainer and then after it, take it out the stream of water and see if it's completely dry. Usually isn't. You usually get globules of water in the tea strainer that just don't go away, even though there's gaps for it to fall through. So let me try and take that to an extreme here. So I'm going to, what I've got here, it's a mesh from a coffee maker. So it's actually, it's porous. So if I take some water and I pour it through there, by and large, it's not very convincing, but it will let the water through. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, so now let's take my glass again. And this time I think I will fill it almost to the top. Put that porous filter on top there. It's a loose fit. Ta-da! So not only does it stick, but the water doesn't go through it. So that is a combination of the air pressure experiment and the surface tension experiment. So the next time you do this at your after-dinner parties, you'll be able to impress people with not one, but two fascinating areas of physics. Right, I am going to quit while I am ahead on that one.
Thank you, Ken.
Talking of water sticking, picking up on Ken's point, let's show you another couple of demonstrations. I think we might have the tea tray up here, or the bucket there.
The bucket here.
The
no,
bucket
we
there.
don't want to get things on the table.
What?
We'll do it on the floor.
Well, people at the back can't see. You can hold it down, there's no problem.
All right.
You might get wet, of course. Here you are.
Very confident.
Yes.
Okay, we'll hold it this way. Then if it does drip,
Well, you better come at the back of the table.
I had. Another example of sticky water. Right, you take that end. Thank you. I'll take this end. Right,
Tight?
tight.
Tight. No. Come on, you brute.
There we
Now,
go.
this is one of your... Thank you. No applause, just throw pennies, thank you. This is very useful when you want to pour water or any other liquid into a narrow neck bottle when you don't have a funnel. What you do is take a rod of some description. What will be really good is a, what's this thing, a chopstick. Put a chopstick in the bottle, pour the water down, it'll go straight in, no problem at all. That's a good tip for the, what do you call it, for the kitchen. Some houses, I don't know if there's any in Orkney, the architects don't put in drain pipes, down pipes from the guttering. They do this sort of thing. They hang chains down, and the water comes onto the roof, into the gutters, and then flows down the chains. Let me show you how it works. You might... This is called a cheap architect. They charge you for the drain pipes, but they don't put them in.
When you come around these houses, you get the chains horizontal.
I love it. Thank you. That's great. Who said the Arcadians have got no sense of humour?
Nobody.
There you are. You
Excellent.
can try that one. That's for your next school project. Pouring water down things, down rods, down pieces of string, rope or whatever. Tip, if you're going to do a school project, make sure you dampen the string or the rope first. Okay, where are we up to?
Ken,
Is it me?
Yes, you.
sunscreen.
Okay, where am I going next?
This
You're
sunscreen.
going next.
I'm going to...
Sunburn. It says
Sunburn,
there,
all right,
sunburn.
okay.
Hey.
Yes, seamlessly on to sunburn. Right, now, how many of you have been persuaded by the factor, the number, on a suntan lotion tube. So I've got factor 25 here, and I've got factor 50 here. 25, 50. $8.99, $14.99. So, which is the best? What would you buy? Depends for what purpose. Now, you've already been clever about the chain. I don't want to... All right, so this is quite interesting because this is something that's quite close to what we do in Aberdeen when we're talking about science and rationale and the way that people use science in advertising. Okay, so it's true that factor 50 will absorb more ultraviolet light from the sun than factor 25. That is true. However, the difference in the protection between those two products, I would argue, is negligible. Now let me try and back that up with a demonstration. So I need a volunteer. Who would like to come out and help with this one? It can be an adult volunteer. It can be a child.
Yeah, him.
You? Yeah, on you come. Right. And where's my glass from before? There it is. So let's pull that out. What's your name? Torkel. Okay, so now could you hold that glass such that people can see inside it? So a bit like, yeah, that's perfect. So what I've got here is one of these illegal lasers from China that produces about 200 times the power that you should have coming out. So I'm going to point it safely up the way. So let's just switch it on. Now, see the beam hitting the ceiling? Okay. So what you've got to think of this as the sun. So the green light here is equivalent of the ultraviolet light that causes sunburn. So think of it in those terms. And I'm going to try and absorb some of this light by placing a liquid in that glass. So that's the experiment we're going to do. Do you want to just tilt a little bit so that that side? Okay. So how are we going to do this? Well, we brought some milk here, and I'm going to fill this first of all with water. And again, what we're
Using
talking
the straw,
about,
Mike. The straw.
what we're talking about here is essentially absorption. So the skin absorbs ultraviolet light, absorbs lots of different types of radiation from the sun. It absorbs UV, but it's a UV that can cause harm in too much a dose. Very simple demonstration of absorption. I don't know if this will work because I genuinely haven't tried it. I don't know if this laser is powerful enough to do this. You take a black balloon, will absorb almost all the colours of the visible spectrum. That's why it's black. It doesn't reflect any light to our eyes. So if I shine the green laser onto that balloon, I hate doing this experiment. I can't stand it. I might try it at the end if I can pluck up the courage. It's melted it a bit. It's about to go, but we haven't got time to wait for that. I know. Nothing like setting up a climax and then having it. Right, okay, so we've got some light hitting the roof there. It's now getting through that water because the water absorbs very little of the green light. Here's a question for you. How much milk do you think I would need to add to this water to cut out, let's say, 50% of the light? A dram. A dram's worth.
That's a good
Can we
measurement.
get that
I love it.
answer up here? A dram's worth. That's quite a lot, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not a whiskey drinker, but I kid on.
There's just over a drum in here.
All right. The answer is actually surprisingly little. It's measured in drops. So I'm going to ask my able assistant Mike here to just add what I guess would be a few drops of milk. Let's take a look at the roof. Yep, that's good. You can see already the amount of light is beginning to diminish. And if we keep on adding a few more drops, it's almost gone away completely. You see that? So there might now be about, let's say, 1/20 of the light getting to the roof compared to what was there before.
Now it's gone nearly.
Now it's gone completely. Now that amount that's in there is probably equivalent to about that 25 factor sun cream. So it cuts out about 95% of the UV rays from the sun. Pretty good. This, the factor 50, will get you, on top of that, maybe another 2.5%. So actually the difference is very, very small. And most, in fact, if you go to the Skin Cancer website, I had a look before I came in here, you will see the advice on these things, which is basically factor 20, factor 15, factor 20 is all you need. Because the additional protection that you get from the factor 50s, factor 40s, whatever they may be, is neither here nor there. It's negligible. And in fact, it's washed off, or the day has ended, before any additional impact would kick in. Does that make sense? So, next time you're up against it in the shops and you see these prices and you see, I mean, this even says for kids, factor 50. Don't necessarily be taken in by that stuff and just think a bit about the science of what's going on. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're still holding that. They don't do They're in the suntan lotion trade as well. So, the other, I suppose, the equivalent thing that you sometimes hear is that eating bacon, and I'm using examples and paraphrasing, so don't take this literally, but eating bacon, eating processed foods, might increase your risk of bowel cancer by 50%. Now that sounds horrendous, but when you actually look at the number of people that get bowel cancer, and let's say it's 1 in 1,000, let's say, I don't know what the statistics are, then actually what you're saying is it might be 1.5 in 1,000. The risk is still relatively low, but the way it's presented, 50%, is quite startling. So I suppose it's a kind of question of just looking at what these figures mean and then making a kind of more informed decision. And so that's why when I'm going shopping in future, unless I see a clearance sale, I'm going to go for the factor 15, factor 20 solution. Right.
Thank you, Ken.
We'll have the time bus at the end.
I just wonder how much of that stuff is sold on opening.
Where's the tape? Right. Okay, candle. A lot of people think that the most important part of the candle is the wick, because a lot of people think that that's what burns. Of course it does burn down, but it's not the fuel for the candle. The fuel for the candle is actually the wax. And what we have here is a beautiful demonstration of a solid and a liquid and a gas. The wax is all melted around the top of the candle, which most of you have seen many, many times. The question is, where's the gas? So let's have a look and see if we can find it. This is useless.
What?
This thing.
It's not useless. Gracious me.
I think it's useless.
Because you haven't got your glasses on.
It isn't. All right.
The flame's over there.
What I'm going to do is gently blow out this flame and see if I can find the gas. And I want you to watch the taper and what happens to the flame as I do that. We're in a bit of a draft here, I think. I'm looking for the vapor trail. I have to thank Sandy and Hilda for this brilliant candle. No, it's gone. Give it a moment. I think there's probably a bit of a draft here. Of course, Mike always says blowing it out stupid, and he has a better way to do it, but I think this is burning fingers way, but okay, go ahead. No, it's not jumping.
It isn't.
It isn't.
I'll tell you what.
Yes?
I suspect it's because this hasn't been burning long enough.
All right.
Why don't you just leave that burning?
And we'll do the
And
other
we'll come back to it.
experiment. All right. We have a second candle experiment, and for this one, we need a volunteer.
Who's willing to drink no.
And why we have a round whiskey
Sewage.
container is because the challenge is to blow this candle out without actually getting close to the candle. And this, once again, is the Coanda effect. If our theory is right, then the air clings to the side of the container. So I need a volunteer who's got a bit of puff. How about you? You reckon got to be a puff? Now we need a fairly big, no, not you, okay. Someone who thinks they've got some puff. Have you got some puff? No?
Torquil's
Right, who am I going to choose? Let's have a mum then. How about a mum? Yep, excellent. Okay, so the challenge is to blow the candle out standing here. So what we'd like you to do is blow just where that fleur-de-lis is in a big puff. One more. Not quite. Excellent! Thank you. So what happened here was the air clung to the side of this curved surface and just trailed away at the back there and blew out the candle. So you can try that at home with an empty whiskey container, not a full one. Right, let's go through this again and see if we're going to have any more luck with the vapor trail. I'll tell you what, Mike, they're going to have to try this one at home.
I tell you what. Listen, why do not just stop there?
Try it with the little one.
Yeah, try it. Put it down. There you go.
I think we're in a bit of draft, that's the
I
problem.
don't think so. I think it's another effect.
It worked.
There you go.
It worked beautifully, that candle, back at the apartment. Beautifully. Right, you saw it jump.
And that's why you should never take a naked flame anywhere near the opening of a petrol container. Because the vapor comes out, the petrol doesn't need to, the petrol vapor comes out, and if you bring a naked flame to it, it straight back down, bang, that's it. So never, ever, ever put a naked flame, a match or anything like that near the vent of a petrol container.
Because that was the wax trail, the vapor wax. And what the wick does is suck up the liquid into the hot area where it can turn into a gas and burn. That's the function of the wick, just to suck it up and get it up into that region there at the top of the flame. It'll probably make a beautiful one now. Right, where are we at?
Okay.
Ken.
And
Right, so I'm going to just spend a couple of minutes quickly talking about the speed of light. So, there are two things that I think, and I don't know whether it's because it's the way it's taught at school or whether it's because it's perceived to be the case, but there's two things about light that I think sometimes people don't quite get right. And the first is the statement that the speed of light is constant. And the other one is that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. Okay, so now those two statements, how many of you think, yeah, that's right? That's the case. That's what I think is true. Yeah, Torquil does, so it must be true. He's got this whole place sewn up. Right, okay, so now here's an experiment that any of you can do. And if you've got two bits of paper, you can do this. If you take two bits of paper and you hold them like that, and then you pull them apart, the bit where they join, the intersection there, see it moves up and down. Yeah? And it moves up and down much faster than the pieces of paper move apart. And in fact, you can amplify that effect by making them as parallel as you can. Okay, so if I do that, quite slow. If I do that, very fast. So, in principle, I could do that, make them parallel, pull them apart, and that intersection point could travel faster than the speed of light. Has to. If I could even pull these apart at a tenth of the speed of light, then it must. So, what's going on there? Does that defy Einstein's theory of special relativity, which says that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light? Well, no, not really. Because there's nothing useful that you can do with that intersection in the paper. So, you could think of a thought experiment whereby you make these blocks and you put a ball bearing at the intersection and you move them together and you push the ball bearing along. Could I then push the ball bearing faster than the speed of light? No, because something kicks in to do with special relativity, which says the faster that something with mass, with weight, if you want, the faster that goes, as it approaches the speed of light, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier until the point where it becomes infinitely heavy at the speed of light. So you would need all the energy in the universe plus more to get it to move. So it's kind of mind-boggling stuff, but it's an example of why the statement nothing can travel faster than the speed of light isn't necessarily true. So that's the first one. The other one is the speed of light is constant. Well, actually, no, it isn't, because if I take, where's my trusty glass? This has been my
Behind you.
my best friend. It's behind me. Where is it? Oh, I put it over here, out of the way. Here it is. This has been my best friend in the whole show, this glass. I brought it from Aberdeen. I wasn't sure I'd get the right kind of shaped glass here. I actually brought the glass. That's sweet, isn't it? I'm going to actually fill it with, oh, no, better not put it in there. I'll put it in there. And take some water here. And then just a little tad of that milky solution from earlier, just so that we can see the beam. Now, what I should have done there, can I use that one? Is there any reason why that can't?
Go for whatever.
So here's something you can do. You can do this with a kind of a torch or a safe laser pointer, the kind you get for presentations. But I'm going to do it with this more powerful one just so you can see the beam better. So the challenge is, how can you shine the beam through the side of the glass and get it to come out the bottom? And with nothing in the glass, then yes, you can. You can see it hitting the floor there. Okay, so that's pretty easy to do. But put some liquid in the glass, and actually it now becomes impossible. Because no matter how steep I make the angle, do you see what's happening there? The beam bends as soon as it enters the glass with the liquid in it, and it bends and it comes out the other side of the glass. I cannot get it to come out the bottom anymore. Now that's called refraction. And the reason that refraction happens is because the speed of light in the liquid is about, in this case, 1.5 times slower than the speed of light in the air. Why does that make it bend? Think of the light, the front of the beam like that. In it comes, hits the side of the glass. Bit that hits first gets slow. Bit that's still in the air keeps moving fast. It has to turn a corner. So refraction only happens because the speed of light is not constant. It's constant in a vacuum, like outer space, but as soon as it goes through something with density, like water or glass, then it slows down. So these are things that are quite subtle in a way, but they explain very basic things like that, and why a swimming pool looks shallower than it actually is, because of this idea of refraction.
Thank you, Ken.
Cut that there.
Now, a line that we've been pushing so far is that when something fluid, either air or water, goes close to a surface, it clings onto it. Now, if I were to ask you which goes faster, a smooth ball or a furry ball, the chances are you would say that the smooth ball, you'd think streamline, yes, smooth ball. It's not true. It's not true. Andy Murray would know this is true. What happens is, can you put the slide up, sir? When the air is travelling through the air like that, the air clings onto this and comes away at the trailing edge, and you get turbulence. You get turbulence. See, the air clings on, breaks away here, you get turbulence. If you can get it to cling in longer, then you get less turbulence round the back. See if I got it. Yeah. Now, with a furry tennis ball, this breaks away later. This region where there's turbulence, which causes drag and slows it down, is much smaller. The same thing happens, as Scotsman found years ago at St Andrews, that if you put little holes in the gutta percha balls that they did in 1800, it travels faster. It's the same reason. The dimples are on the golf ball for exactly the same reason. Exactly the same reason.
And they were accused of cheating.
They were in the early days, but they weren't. Eventually Dunlop sort of rectified that and made it all official. What next?
Okay.
Was it me again?
You again.
But what am I doing now? Oh yes, I remember. So I'm going to do a demonstration on energy, and I need a volunteer this time. Who would like to...
Pick on someone, Ken.
Yeah, I'm going to pick on some. Oh no, here we go. Two willing volunteers. All right. In fact, you can both play, but I'll do it one at a time. So what's your name? Josh. Okay, do you want to come out here actually for a second, Josh? What I've got here are 2 ball bearings. Or balls, I should say. Ball I always remember being told off by my dad for saying these were ball bearings. These are balls that make up a bearing. Just remember that. You'll impress somebody one day with that piece of information. 2 steel balls, about 5 centimetres wide. Something very simple you can do with these is just knock them together like that. And the question is, what happens when I do that? Now, what I've got here is a piece of paper. Sorry, this is one of the pastoral information slips. I hope I can destroy this. Just hold that out like that, maybe at the top there, so that your hands are well out of the way. Okay, and then just nice and high up so that everybody can see. Maybe turn around a little bit so they can see. That's very good. Now, what I'm going to do, very quickly, is tap these balls together with the paper in between. Okay, and then I want you to run over to your, is that your sister? No, friend? And let her smell the paper, okay? Right, you ready? Ready? Here goes, I'll do it a few times. Okay, go. Smell the paper, smell the paper, smell the paper, smell the paper. What's it? It's burning. Okay, so, why does that happen, is the question. Does anybody know why that happens? Any ideas? Yeah. Sandy Smith wants to go. Okay, yeah.
Because of the energy transfer.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. Sorry, what was that from the back? Small area. Okay. Here's another 2 balls. Same. Weight. Steel. Top. Do you want to pop up here? And so I'll give you those 2. Okay. I'll hold a piece of paper this time.
Always being mean now.
Want you to just try it yourself. Now, don't get your fingers between them. Okay.
Failed.
Right, try again. You might know about gutters, but you don't know about energy balls. Sorry, I couldn't resist it. All right, yeah. So what's the difference? Would anybody like to inspect the balls? Be careful how we say this. Okay. Well, yeah. The weight of that one. Be careful, don't mix them up.
Go straight to you.
No,
Same weight?
These are, we've got to talk about flying now.
Yeah, same weight.
Talk about the wing.
Okay. Any ideas?
All right, you talk about
Made of both made of steel?
Are they both shiny?
Both shiny?
No. Ones aren't. These ones you really make shiny.
All right.
A lower
Let's go-
concentration of the energy with the big balls.
The same size though.
Oh, give us a
Give us a go. One. Okay, we'll take one more and then we'll need to move on.
Are one of them able to compress the air between the balls so much that it
Okay, an old friend from Glasgow here in the audience. But he's wrong. Well, all right. Okay. Here's the scoop. So I was a bit mischievous. When I said they were both made of steel, I was right. They are both made of steel. One set's made of stainless steel. The other set's made from chrome steel. So what? Same thermal conductivities and all the rest of it. However, stainless steel, most grades of stainless steel, are actually quite soft. People think stainless steel is very hard, but by and large it's actually quite a soft type of steel unless you go for a very high grade. Whereas chrome steel is very hard. So the set that I started off with that worked, when you do that, it's called a perfectly elastic collision. The balls bounce off one another, they stop at the moment of impact, and all the moving energy gets converted to heat at that tiny point between them, enough to burn the paper. But your balls, if you pardon the expression, steel balls I gave you, compress when you bring them together, and the energy is actually wasted in deforming the balls rather than heating the paper. So, that's the scoop, that's why it happens. You've got a question, I dare to think what this is going to be. Go for it. He's still got a ball, okay. Very honest. I know, they're all out of order now, but anyway. So, and that's quite interesting because shock absorbers, if you think of shock absorbers, the worst thing you want to do with a shock absorber is make it of the equivalent of the chrome balls, because it'll be very springy. So it won't act as a shock absorber. You want to make it such that it deforms and the energy gets absorbed, like in a car or a bridge or some other system. Right.
I think we're going to have to leave 2 experiments till after, and we'll say. We have a couple more experiments that we won't quite have time for, but we will do them afterwards if people are interested, because we need to finish on time today. So, why do planes fly? Well, we said that it was something to do with that curved surface, which caused this to lift as well as that angle of attack. It isn't, as the textbooks say, something to do with a gentleman called Bernoulli. It is, in fact, the Coanda effect, just the air moving over the curved surface and clinging to it and pushing down and enabling, in just a simple mechanical reaction, to lift. Then, to most planes, is that there's a problem at this edge of the wing, just like there was a problem at the back of the golf ball. The air at the end of the wing is going to be difficult. Mike?
What happens at the end of the wing, the air pressure underneath is greater than above, and you get air sloping round from underneath to top. And exactly the same thing happens as with the birds. It leaves these beautiful vortices. You see the planes come through the cloud, and those rings are caused by wingtip vortices. Try the next one. There's an even better one. What they did there is to fly the plane through a red smoke screen. Just let go. This can be very dangerous. If a light plane takes off after a Boeing 747 or something too soon, these vortices will pick the light plane up and just flip it over onto its back.
But there is a solution.
You've probably seen these winglets on the end of the wing. These actually cut down the wingtip vortices way, way down, and they increase the efficiency of the plane no end. Over at, say, a trip like we do from Australia to Dubai in one hit, they'll make a massive saving in fuel. I think there's one more, isn't there?
No.
Oh, right. Yes, there is.
Oh, I beg your pardon, there is.
You've probably seen this fellow, the Osprey, flying. The Osprey gets around this problem of wingtip vortices, which it gets when it's gliding, by just opening out the feathers at the end of its wing. That actually cuts down the vortices no end and makes it a much more efficient flyer. That, is an American bald eagle, but the idea is exactly the same. And now, the grand finale.
We'd like to finish with an experiment which hasn't been done in a science show before. If it is true that the air going over the top pushes down, then someone has suggested that a flying saucer might be designed by having a fan at the top where the blue is there and causing the air to go over the saucer and lift. So we've got a little saucer here, and what we want to see is if that really is going to work. If we push the air down, is this saucer going to lift? Yes, it is. So next time you're thinking about flying, think about all that air clinging to the wing and helping that plane take off into the sky. So that's the end of our presentation, and I know that Howie has a little bit to say, and if any of you have time afterwards for the extra couple of experiments, we'd be happy to do them at the end. Howie.
Thank you very much indeed, Sue and Mike. And before rounding off, I would like to announce a special presentation. Skills in science communication, to highlight them, and to highlight them in a way that sets standards for the future, to mark contributions, individual contributions to the skills of science communication. And as you can see, it's a complicated field because we've got to link practical skills with theory. And tonight, we're going to welcome 2 new members to the Faraday Club, because I should say membership is by invitation. It's quite small, it steadily grows with 2 or 3 more members a year, and each member is somebody who's made a significant contribution to the communication of science. And the first of the 2 is somebody we know very well, admire very well, and like very much. Professor Tom Stevenson is somebody who combines practical skills with the ability to explain the theory clearly, concisely, and elegantly. He's a lifelong ability to observe the world in all kinds of ways and then draw out conclusions. In his professional career, it's been in microelectronics, and his science started at the Stromness Academy, then Aberdeen University, Edinburgh University, and the Wolfson Centre for Microelectronics, where he became professor. In communication, particularly in wireless communication, he's done so much. He's the chairman of the Museum of Communication at Burnt Island in Fife, and I really recommend everybody who's driving south to Edinburgh, you must go in there and see it. It is a kind of treasure chest. Just as the Wireless Museum here in Carpool is a treasure chest at Kills Corner, after enjoying the Wireless Museum, that will bite your appetite, then go in at Burnt Island. It's a building, it's actually colossal. They've got all kinds of, there must be thousands of items there, and then the displays are totally fascinating. So Tom, as chairman there, has been very involved in the work. And of course Tom, with the Science Festival, has lectured at every single science festival since the very start. And the topics he chooses are fascinating. He might take an item from local history, from national history. He might take an item at the very frontiers of scientific research. And each one, he links the theory and links the practice. So, indeed, when names were nominations this year, and the 2 nominations, there was no doubt about one of the names, just as there is, as we'll hear from Mike in a moment, there's no doubt about the second. And I'd like to ask our good friend Tom to come forward and officially receive this membership of certificate for joining the Faraday Club.
Tom, we have a little gift here, which is particularly engraved for the Faraday Club. It is, of course, a very Scottish thing. Perhaps I'll get it out and show the audience what this is. But it's a bit special because it's the Faraday Club itself. Thank you, Tom. Congratulations.
Science Festival
Dr. Ken Skeldon, who's been with us this afternoon. He's not a stranger to the Orkney Science Festival. He's a renowned physics demonstrator, as you've seen, and he's renowned for big original demonstrations. He presented the first theatre-scale laser show here in Orkney. He's now at the University of Aberdeen and leads the Public Engagement of Science Unit, where he travels all over the land.